Okay, so like Steve introduced me, I'm Manish. I work on Servo, and I've been doing Rust things for a while. I'm mostly going to talk about how we can be a bit more open, as in welcoming in our community. Oh, what the? Okay. So, open source. In the past, uh-oh. Okay. In the past, a lot of the software we used was proprietary. Folks had to pay licensing fees, and to get anything done, it was just annoying and hard. Our industry had the issue of a lack of availability of software. It was hard to get the software, it was hard to get the source code. And out of this grew the free and open source software movements. These movements were focused on making software available, making it so that you could obtain the software or even the source code with little or no restrictions. While there's always more work to be done, the lion's share of this goal has been mostly achieved. It's pretty easy to find open source versions of some software library. A lot of the software we use on a day-to-day basis is open source, or heavily dependent on open source components. As open as these projects are to their code being used, they're not necessarily as open in the sense of being welcoming to contributions. Sure, they're very happy if some experienced person comes along and starts sending them patches, but for an inexperienced contributor, it's very non-trivial to get involved. I feel that this should change. I feel like people wanting to participate should be aided in doing so. So I want to show you how your open source project can be more welcoming, open as in welcoming, not just available. I'd like to take a moment to say that the Rust community, all of you, and the thousands of others who are not here right now, it's one of the most welcoming communities I've seen online. People are patient, they're empathetic, they're helpful. It's great. My goal is for us to be even better. There. So why should we bother? It's a good question to ask. Really, okay, oh no. Really, I just feel that it's the right thing. But I'm sure that not everyone agrees with me on this, so I'm going to give you some other reasons. One of the most common arguments against making projects more accessible is that, well, serious contributors they can deal with all the issues with getting started, and we don't care about the rest. It's an argument that sort of makes sense. It tries to be practical, but it's flawed. Serious contributors rarely start out serious, they start out curious, and if they encounter friction, they might just go somewhere else. This isn't even limited to inexperienced programmers. If you're an experienced programmer, if you're frustrated with a project that you're interested in contributing with, you may just give up. There are other things you could be doing. And while some of the things in this talk are focused towards inexperienced contributors, that is not true for most of the points, and most of what I'm going to be talking about helps everyone contribute. It usually doesn't take that much effort, actually. It takes an hour or so to set up things like basic documentation, like a contributing file. Mentoring an issue takes between 0 and twice the amount of time you would need to fix it yourself, so it usually works out to be the same. And ultimately, it ends up being worth it. In my experience, whatever time you put into this, it more than recoups itself when it ends up with long-term contributors becoming a part of your project. One great example of this is Servo. By the way, I just love that our logo is that and that I can show that in the series talk. Servo is an experimental browser engine in Rust, and in my opinion, it's an extremely welcoming open source project. We do tons of mentoring. And as a result, we have a very vibrant community, many of which they started off as complete novices who may not even have known Rust, but now are making large, impactful contributions. It's a very ambitious project, and we would not have reached where we've reached so far without the help of all of these contributors. We're now in a situation where too many new contributors is a problem. We file good first bugs, and they get snapped up quickly. We keep running out, and this happens so much that we have a term for it now. Simo invented it, which is the easy piranhas. Yeah. We tag the bugs as easy, so yeah. Yeah, and this has also helped the project I'm currently working on, Stylo, which is for taking servo bits into Gecko There's, again, a whole lot of work to be done there, and a lot of it just gets done because people pick up bugs we found. They're like, yeah, OK, I'm going to fix that. And it's nice. We have some really good long-term contributors on Stylo because of this. Another example is Clippy. Clippy is a linting tool for Rust used by a lot of folks. For some reason, people who use Rust really enjoy being scolded by the compiler so much that they actually opt into more of that. I don't know. It started off as a small, not very serious project. It kind of started off because I liked the name. I really liked messing with the internals of a compiler, and this was a way for me to like do things without actually having to make RFCs and all of that hard work. No one wants to do that. But folks started using it, which is a problem because now folks want things. And feature requests piled up. I was more than happy to like start working on those, but I mean, I had limited time. A very enthusiastic Andre, who's sitting right there, he became a co-maintainer when he wrote his own collection of lints, and we merged them together. But still, with 2 people, the project was going quite slowly. Like, issues kept piling up. Neither of us had the time to like sit down and just fix everything. And even if we wanted to, we just didn't have the time. It was a cool project, but it was small. And this is a problem that so many open source maintainers have. They have cool stuff they want to work on. They have projects that are half finished. And they have limited time, and they've got, well, priorities as well. So one day, I decided to try and make it easier to contribute to Clippy. I've benefited a lot from random open source projects helping me learn. So I wanted to give back. And I've learned a bunch of techniques from awesome people on Servo and Firefox and other projects. And I applied what I knew. So we had 24 lints at the time, a small number. I sat down, I did a couple of things. I wrote a contributing file, and it had some tips for working on lints and stuff like that. I urged people to ask questions in the file. People are usually afraid of asking questions. I also went and tagged every issue on the repo as easy, medium, or hard. And I shared the file with the community. This didn't take much effort. It took like maybe an hour and a half. Andre helped, so I don't know how long it took him. It didn't really take much effort mentoring the people who arrived. They like asked a few questions, we answered them, and then they had a pull request, which was mostly good. In 1 month, our quiet little repo had 59 lints and 19 contributors, from 24 to 59 in 1 month. That's doubling. People kept dropping by. They wanted to learn. They wanted to contribute. We had one contributor, George, who made some very high-impact contributions, so we added him as a co-maintainer. We can already see this maintainer load problem slowly fixing itself. Over time, we had a steady stream of contributors. We added Martin and Oliver as maintainers. This is, by the way, like over the course of just 6 months. We're at 162 now. And now we have a ton of lints. We have almost 200 lints, almost 100 contributors. And new ones are being added all the time. I'm sure there are things that I'm supposed to be reviewing right now that I'm not. Folks have often used Clippy as a stepping stone for hacking on Rust C. And compilers are a rather intimidating sort of project I've found. And it's great that people are doing this, because now we have a lot more folks on the compiler as well who have started off with Clippy. These days, I have almost no time to hack on Clippy. But thanks to my amazing co-maintainers in the community, the project is able to just move on, and it's still doing great and growing. None of this would have happened if we hadn't put in the effort in the first place to make it more welcoming and make it more accessible. All right, so all of this is to say that putting some effort into opening up your project can go a really long way. So let's see how we can do this effectively. Given a random issue on your repo, it's unlikely that a newcomer, experienced or otherwise, will understand what's going on. Most issues require a lot of unstated context. They use jargon. They refer to random modules that nobody understands. And it's such that only someone who already understands the code base can contribute. Now, it's going to be hard to fix up all of these with all the context. It's usually easier to fix it yourself. But it's very helpful for new contributors if they have a way to find issues that don't have this problem. having an easy bug tag or some page that's easily discoverable that has a list. It helps immensely. These bugs will often be bite-sized tasks. It's better to tag more involved bugs as like medium, less easy, or something like that. Easy bugs are not hard to create. If you notice something you want to refactor, that's often a great easy bug because all it requires is basic understanding of the language. If you're working on something and there are like little bits of features on the side that you want to add into the big feature you're working on, sometimes you can break those off as, all right, I'm going to do this later, I'm going to file this as an easy bug, and just land the main core of your feature and wait for other people to come up and fix the rest. This is basically extracting things as self-contained tasks. It would be easier to just fix it now while you're doing the rest of it, but the payoff is, there's a chance of a much bigger payoff if you help someone else fix it. Always be on the lookout for chunks of work like this. It's really easy to find these chunks of work. Usually there's a bunch of things that we always fix a big thing, and then it's like, oh, okay, I should fix that, I should fix that, I should fix that. Don't fix some of those and just file bugs. Don't make critical bugs into easy issues. I've made this mistake many times. I've seen this mistake being made. If something needs to be solved now or soon, having it blocked in a newcomer is like a recipe for sadness everywhere. You may end up pressurizing the contributor to get the patch done, which is not great. Or you might end up doing it yourself while they're working on it, and that's a really, really bad experience for the contributor. It will leave a bad taste in their mouth. On the other hand, you can still make the bugs impactful even if you don't need to. Even if you don't need it to be solved. People love to see that their patch will positively affect many, many people. It's good to provide context in these bugs. So like link to the relevant code, maybe mention the tests you want to get passing, give some pointers on where to get started. If there's a similar bit of code in the code base, you can point to that as well and say, like, what we did here is similar to what you want to do here. Give some starters so that people unfamiliar with the code base can basically dive right in. If you have a lot of similar tasks, consolidate the common bits into guides so that then if someone's coming to your repo, then you don't have to write it each time in the bug, and instead they can just read the guide. Always solicit questions. Always say, please ask me any questions you have while working on this. Many people, make people know that it's okay to ask questions, and then they will. Contributions don't need to be limited to code. Pure documentation fixes can be really, really valuable, and you open yourself up to contributors who prefer doing technical writing and do it well. Like Rust C has a whole host of contributors mainly focused on docs, and they do a lot of stellar work. Even infrastructure work, like fixing CI, build configs, etc., can be made into easy bugs. Servo does this, and we get frequent contributions. We had one experienced contributor actually like revamp this whole all of our infrastructure, which was mostly written by people like me who do not understand ops at all. And they made it much better, and it was great. So this can have a large payoff. Rust is actually doing this right now, where the Rust C is trying to make its infrastructure much more distributed in the sense of how many people are responsible for it and how many people can hack on it. And if you're interested, maybe talk to me, and I'll figure out who you can talk to after that. Document everything. These are questions you're going to get asked anyway. Better write them down once. This saves your time, and it aids people who are too intimidated to ask questions, because now they don't have to ask a question, they can just read the docs. Make sure your README file is up to date with build information. The nice thing about Rust is that it's usually just cargo build, but sometimes you have weird steps and prerequisites or whatever, and just document them. Also make sure you prominently link to your contributions file. On that note, create a contributions file where you can put the bulk of the information for new contributors. The patch workflow is probably one of the most important things you put there. This helps both experienced and new contributors. It's very important that you don't miss anything here. A few months ago, there's this rather well-known, established open source tool that I wanted to send a patch to. I had my patches. It was a simple fix. I had everything done, ready to go. And I'm like, OK, now I need to submit this. They weren't on GitHub or whatever, so I had to figure stuff out. They had a contributing file. They had some docs somewhere on a web page with everything listed. It went into excruciating detail on like various things. It was like, it told you exactly how your white space should be, and it also told you like the exact style, length, and maybe even the color of your commit messages. I don't know, it had a lot of information in it. It had plenty of things to read. I read through all of it. I fixed up all my code. And they completely forgot to mention where my patch was supposed to go. They had no links, no mention of anything. After some Googling, I found their mailing list. I submitted the patch, and then there were various issues that made it hard for that to work as well. And getting all of this to work was like so frustrating. And they could have documented this in like one paragraph. Here's the mailing list, here's how you submit a patch, here's how it gets moderated, here's whatever. And no, like this was such a bad experience for me. Like I had other patches I wanted to do. It was an interesting project. And I was like, never mind. And then I was even thinking of fixing the documentation to add that information, but it left such a bad taste in my mouth that I never even did that. Because I'm like, I'm not going to go through this process again. So make sure you mention the patch contribution workflow. That is basic. Aside from the patch workflow, link to places where the discussions happen, like RC channel, mailing list. Even if your issue tracker is the only place you have that, it's good to mention it sometimes. And again, encourage questions. People are afraid of asking questions. Just encourage them. Include information on how your tests work if you have weird testing setups. And have an overview of the code base so that it's easier for people to find things. Link to the API docs of your code base or the libraries it uses so that it's easier to hack on things. Include a code of conduct if you don't have one already. You can base it off of Rust's one. Make it clear that certain kind of behavior will not be tolerated in the project. And if you're using GitHub, and again, I'm not saying you should, but it's useful for making things welcoming. GitHub has a very neat feature where you can pre-fill issue and pull request bodies with templates. Servo uses this to provide checklists for contributors, like please check here if you did tests, if you ran the tests, or what tests this fixed. Please check here if you ran tidy, and a bunch of other things. This automates away having to ask them, oh, did you run tests? Because then we can just see that, and it just reminds them, oh, you should run tests. One of the most common sources of friction for newcomers is overcomplicated contribution processes. Usually these processes exist for a reason. Like complicated projects need complicated review tools and complicated issue trackers and a whole bunch of other things. There's usually a reason behind it, it's usually sensible. But for most new contributors, parts of these processes are like unnecessary. They don't provide anything other than friction. For example, in Servo, we have this awesome review tool called Reviewable. It handles rebases well, and it lets you keep track of review progress, and it's pretty good. It's also a very complicated tool. It takes quite a while to get used to. I still get confused by it sometimes after like using it for a year. So what we do, we don't require people to use this. If the tool is optional and it gets used for large pull requests. Most newcomers don't make huge pull requests, so the cool review tool isn't necessary there. And we just use the regular review stuff, and it works. They don't have to deal with this. Similarly, the OpenSL project used to have a mailing list for patches, but they were okay with you submitting the patch on GitHub, and then you had to do something, but it was simple, it was well documented. So it was nice. I didn't have to get the mailing list set up to work. They've since switched entirely to GitHub, but I mean, they used to have this, again, dual process where there's a right way of doing it, and then there's the way that you can do it when you're getting started because you don't want to deal with every single thing. In Clippy, we often just fix up contributor pull requests before merging instead of asking them to like make stylistic changes. And then we just tell them, oh, by the way, we fixed these issues. Next time, try to fix them. Because it's great to be able to make a perfect pull request, but there's no reason they need to learn that on their first try. There are just so many other things that they have to learn that time, so it's good to spread it out. And in general, it's nice to make like bits of process like this optional, provide alternatives. As a contributor gets more involved, they'll be able to learn these things at a relaxed pace. So they'll get there eventually. You don't need to force everything on them in the first go. So you've got someone on your issue tracker wanting help fixing a bug. Of course, you should answer their questions, but what else is involved? So first, try and approach it as if you're their companion, discovering the code base along with them. For example, if you're to answer a question about the code base, help them understand the process by which they themselves could have answered it by walking through the code base. Instead of just giving them a code snippet, show them how some code elsewhere is doing something similar and how that relates here and how they can transform that into the code they need. Of course, you should eventually give them the answer, but give them the answer in long form. Using we instead of you is really, really helpful here. I found that this attitude dispels a lot of the apprehension people have, because now it's like you're more of this friend than just a mentor. You're like going along with them. Be clear in setting your expectations. If you're going to be too busy to help out, let them know. Like I've said like 4 times now, I guess, a lot of people are afraid of asking questions. And the lack of a response will make them feel, wait, was my question too stupid? Are they too annoyed with me to answer it? So it's good to give a response, even if your response is just, I'm busy right now, but I will get to this in X days or sometime in the future. Sorry about this. Mentoring doesn't have to be one-on-one. It's nicer when all maintainers are helping out, and they're popping in and out of an issue, giving answers, whatever. This spreads out the work, and the new contributor learns about the whole community much quicker. Just be careful that nobody falls through the cracks where it's like everyone thinks someone else is helping them out. Follow up. This is one of the most productive things you can do in mentoring. If a new contributor just landed a patch, point them to some similar issue that they could also solve that is a bit more involved. Most of the time, they're more than happy that you thought of them, and they're like, oh, wow, yes, this is what I'm going to work on next. Or if you don't have such an issue, remember to ping them the next time you see one. This really makes them know you care and keeps them engaged. It's great. It's important to understand where your contributors are coming from. One of the most common mistakes and sources of frustration is that it's assuming that everyone thinks like you and shares your experiences, which is never the case. Open source mentorship is an opportunity to experience different ways of thinking, almost firsthand. It's an opportunity to become a better teacher, and of course, improve someone else's programming in the process. All of this requires empathy. Be patient with your mentees. Avoid expecting things from them. For example, sometimes they may not be familiar with the tools you use. In Clippy, we've had a couple of great contributors. We've had a couple of great contributions from people who just made the patch on their own without help, and then they didn't know how to use GitHub. And like in the Rust community, we sort of assume people know how to use GitHub, but it's not true for everyone. And okay, we explained it, and it worked. They were able to use it. But I've seen this happen a couple of times. Other times, they may not be familiar with the programming language. In Servo, we get a lot of people who are new to Rust and like have read maybe the first few chapters of the book, and they feel that they can learn Rust better by contributing to an open source project. We still get great contributions from these folks, and many of these folks have gone on to become like really good Rust programmers doing a lot of more involved things on both our code bases and others. Sometimes, you will require familiarity with the language for an involved issue, or sometimes you just won't have the time to mentor someone who needs help with the language itself, but it's better to make this expectation clear in the bug itself as much as possible. And for better or for worse, a project will usually have a primary language of communication. Not everyone will be fluent. So never assume that. Though I guess this is a European room, so everybody knows that. And finally, use inclusive language. Avoid phrases like, just do this, like just. While the task may seem simple to you, there may be complexities you have just ignored because you're used to it. It's very hard to put yourself completely in someone else's shoes, so don't ever assume that you have. Because it's very discouraging when someone tells you just do X, and then you go to just do it, and it's actually pretty hard. And then you're like, wait, but that person thought it was easy. What am I doing? Maybe I'm doing this all wrong. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. I'm going to go try something else. I sort of like to tie this together by pitching a dream I have. It's a dream I hope you adopt as your own. All open source. Well, okay, this is a bit too ambitious. Let's try again. The Rust community should be a place where the answer to the question, how do I get better in Rust, is pick literally any Rust crate that interests you, and the rest will be obvious. As I said before, I really think that being welcoming in open source is just the right thing to do, though again, there are other valid reasons you may wish to do the same. I'm going to leave you all with a wonderful quote by Toni Morrison that helps motivate why I feel that way. I tell my students, when you get these jobs that you have been so brilliantly trained for, just remember that your real job is that if you are free, you need to free somebody else. If you have some power, then your job is to empower somebody else. This is not just a grab bag candy game. Thank you.